and welcome to episode 1 of the Hexellent podcast. I'm Leanne.
And I'm Brock.
And we're going to talk about some weird stuff.
Like what?
Well, today we're going to be talking about Hexenkopf Rock, which is local to us here. But before we get into the story, let's tell them a little bit more about us. So I have always been into the paranormal, the occult, anything strange. Never really had too many experiences, but I'm always interested in hearing about other people. You, on the other hand.
Yeah, I don't know. Weird stuff has always happened in my life. When I was younger, we used to do a lot of paranormal investigating, so to speak, just trying to see what we could find. We've interacted with some things we can't really explain.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we'll go through some of those stories in a later episode. But like I said, we're going to start local and maybe move our way out. So local to us is actually here in northeastern Pennsylvania, specifically the Lehigh Valley. Currently, we have 17 inches of snow on the ground, and it's still coming down. So if we look a little red, it's because we were out shoveling in the snow.
And that's what we're going to be doing as soon as we're done here.
Yeah. So anyway, let's get into this. So Hexenkopf Ridge is actually part of a natural preserve that's in Williams Township, part of Northampton County, Pennsylvania, which is near Easton. Have you ever heard of the ridge?
I have, yes. I've gone looking for it, but I don't actually think we've ever been to the actual ridge or hill or what they call it.
Okay, so that would actually make sense. In 1967, a local professor and his wife purchased the property. And so it's been private land since that time, since 1967. But actually, as of October of 2020, so very recently, they sold the land off to the Heritage Society to be used as like a natural preservation type space.
So it'll be accessible to the public whenever then?
Exactly. So probably very soon, and we can update everyone, but very soon you should be able to go up and actually visit the ridge.
Okay, cool.
And see what we're talking about. So you said you have heard of Hexenkopf. Are you familiar with any of the stories, or have you heard anything?
I've heard with the Hexenkopf that it always was surrounded with the witchcraft, Native American activity, and stuff along those lines, which I think they all kind of go hand in hand at the end of it all anyways.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, the current owners say they've never had any strange experiences, never seen anything or heard anything, but I mean, we have stories going back for more than 2 centuries.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, locals and tourists have been drawn to the hill. The name, do you actually know what Hexenkopf means? You're German.
I know what my last name means. I do not know what Hexenkopf means, though.
So it actually translates to witch's head. And
okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, I bet you can guess why it's called witch's head. It looks like a witch's head. Yeah, okay. Exactly. So if you're not from the area, you might be unfamiliar with the Pennsylvania Dutch, which is a large community within the state, and it's had a strong influence over our culture since the 1700s. Pennsylvania has had a long history of witchcraft or powwow. Have you ever heard of powwow?
I have heard of powwow, yes.
So that's the local name. It's a type of witchcraft. And the practitioners in this area mostly came from the Harz Mountains in Germany, where belief in witchcraft is still incredibly strong. The tallest peak in the area of the Harz Mountains is actually called the Brocken.
That's a little strange.
How do you feel about that?
Oh, I kind of wish I didn't know about that.
All right. Well, it has been a regular meeting site for Sabbats and rituals. And so when the German, Pennsylvania Dutch, actually moved here, when they immigrated here, the Hexenkopf actually fulfilled the role of the Brocken to those German immigrants.
Oh,
so
nice.
Back to the powwow. So during the 18th century, German immigrants actually brought powwow to the area. It's a type of faith healing that surprisingly is still popular today. There was just a dog in the video. I don't know if anyone saw that.
Oh, was there? Which dog was it? Oh, I think it was Marla.
Most commonly, powwow appears in Pennsylvania Dutch, Amish, Mennonite, and German Reformed communities, which are all very strong in this area. As I said, we're northeastern Pennsylvania. It's actually so popular, in fact, that in 1893, state medical laws were written to include a provision allowing powwowers to practice freely, as long as they did not prescribe medication or require fees for their services.
Huh.
So,
Is that still relevant today?
it is. So, when I'll talk about this in a second. They say that, they don't really practice anymore, but the book is still in print, and
Okay.
it's still being sold regularly.
So we can start powwowing out back if
We
we
can.
wanted to?
We
Okay.
can.
All right.
So the most used text for powwowers is actually a book, and this is my best German translation here. Der lang verbogene Freund, the long lost friend.
Okay.
Okay, so have you heard of this book before?
I have not.
Okay, so
You're learning me right now, I don't know anything here.
this book actually has an incredible history. It is actually the driving force in the Hex House murders, which is also local to us, if you've heard of that. There's actually a really great
yeah.
documentary on Amazon
We just
called
watched that.
The Hex House Murders. Basically, powwowers thought they were being cursed by other powwowers, and it ended in murder. True story. Very good.
You could still see that house today, right?
Yeah,
That's still
absolutely.
standing?
I
Okay.
think that's close to like York County, so that's a little west of us.
I think that's like 2 hours
Yeah,
for us, about that.
yeah,
Okay.
somewhere near Lancaster, Pennsylvania, I think.
Okay.
But anyway, and I'm sure at some point we'll go over the Hex House murders. I just, it came up in this. Actually, a lot of this we'll probably have to revisit in future episodes because, like I said, this is a huge part of Pennsylvania culture.
Yeah, it definitely is. And through all of that, between the powwowing and, the settlements of like the Scottish and the Irish and their beliefs, didn't that cause a little bit of turmoil between them and the Native Americans?
Oh, most definitely.
Okay.
So, Native Americans, actually, it was the Lenape Indians that lived in this region.
Okay. Yep.
And they're very familiar with this site, so we'll talk about how they're related to the site as well. But yeah, there have been several raids, several killings local to the area between settlers and Native Americans. So,
I think that's pretty much the whole area here.
the whole Northeast, for sure. All right, so The Long Lost Friend, which is the book we were talking about. The book takes ideals from Hebrew Kabbalah, Egyptian hieroglyphs, deep German mysticism, as well as Gypsy and Druid beliefs. So it's a lot.
Okay.
It's a lot in one book. The book is still available today and contains some pretty bold claims. A lot of the things that they claim, the author claims that can happen, or things that he claims you can have, are pretty bold. And I'll tell you a few of those.
Okay.
But the book, like I said, has not been out of print since it was first published, which was in 1855. The author, Johann Homan, actually never received any profits from this book. So he was a true powwower. No profits. He used his abilities for good.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So just spread the message and the healing, and do it for the collective, not for the pocket.
Exactly. So, as I said before, they say that powwowing died out in the 1950s, but I mean, that book is being sold on a daily basis at roadside stands. We pass, Amish and Mennonite families. They still have hex signs on their barns. So I'm fairly certain that they're still powwows.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they're
And
right.
it could be that they're using powwow in combination with modern medicine. Like I said, it's kind of a form of faith healing, so maybe they're involving prayer with medication. I don't know.
Gotcha.
I'm just speculating.
Now, that's the good side of it. A lot of people correlate witchcraft and stuff of that nature with black magic
Right.
or
Right.
evil entities.
So powwow is a version of white magic, and it has a lot to do with transference.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll get into that. I'm just gonna go through a little bit more on the book here, and then we can talk about how the rock itself was used for transference. So, I think I've talked about these a few times before, but this book, like I said, has some pretty bold claims, and there's some things in here I think we should try.
Okay.
All right. So right now we're in the middle of a pandemic, or if you have allergies like me, here's a good one. The book claims that if you have a runny nose, at the end of the day, you should pull off your shoes and stockings, run all of your fingers between your toes, and then smell them.
Nah, I'll pass. That's a hard pass. I'll take the cold.
Yeah, and then that's it. Apparently that gets rid of your runny nose.
All right, let me know how that works out for you.
All right. Another one, which I've actually heard before. I actually heard this living in Colorado. A doctor once told me this. So apparently this has, farther reaching implications than we thought. But if you have a wart, you are supposed to rub a piece of raw potato over the wart, bury the potato under the eaves of your outhouse, and as the potato rots, so does the wart.
What if you don't have an outhouse?
I don't know.
Things have changed greatly.
All right. And then one last one here, and actually this is a personal experience of mine.
Okay.
I have restless legs. So, I get in bed at night and I just have to keep kicking my legs. Well, when I first moved to Pennsylvania, which was around 2007, someone told me that I should take a bar of white soap, like ivory soap,
Okay.
and put that bar of soap between my mattress and my fitted sheet, and that my restless legs would stop.
Did you try it?
I did.
Did it work?
Kind of.
Okay.
I mean,
You still do it.
I also, no, I don't still do it. I also drank a bunch of water and took some magnesium, but yeah. So, I mean, that one's a pretty well known, I think.
Okay.
All right. So that's a little bit about the local history, but the rock itself. So for years and years and years, locals have blamed witches on the hill for any of their troubles. So their harvest is poor. They get into an accident, they lose a pet, anything like that has been blamed on witches. Many claim to have seen them locked arm in arm dancing around the rock up on the hill. They claim to hear unearthly noises and see ghostly lights.
Interesting.
In the 19th century, Peter Saylor, have you ever heard of Peter Saylor?
The only sailor that I would know of is like the Sailor Park with the Sailor Kilns and everything in Copley, PA. Any relation?
I'm actually not sure.
Okay.
That is a common German name in this area, and I've seen it spelled Saylor and Seilor.
The kilns were Saylor, I believe.
Yeah,
Don't
so,
quote me on that though.
And they could be related. I mean, like Finstermaker and Finstermarker. I mean,
Yeah.
you're all related, but So anyway, in the 19th century, Dr. Peter was said to have harnessed the power of the rock itself. A researcher and historian for the Williams Township, has said of the rock, while many exorcists use objects like a chair, an animal, or if handy, a corpse, as receptors for evil which they draw out of a patient, Dr. Saylor conceived the notion of using Hexenkopf as its gigantic receptor. So, I think he's saying whatever they take out of you, they're putting directly into the rock.
Okay.
Which is interesting because you mentioned the Native Americans.
Yes.
And that was actually a common practice among the Lenape Indians, was drawing evil spirits out of their sick and then entrapping them in a rock.
Interesting.
Yep.
Now, did they both practice that in that same area, on that same rock?
They did. Yes. So prior to the 19th century, Native Americans were living on that land.
Okay.
And then once the immigrants started coming in from Germany, they took over that land, as well as the British, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's our legacy.
so, Yeah, so yeah, so anyway, years and years of people putting their evil thoughts and evil feelings and sickness and everything into that rock. Well, because of that, the rock is said to glow.
I have definitely heard about that. I
Yeah.
also heard that the rock is sometimes above normal temperature for the time of year.
That
That people have said it was radiating heat during the winter and stuff such as that.
I actually found both of those things in my research.
Okay.
So the glowing of the rock and then the changes in temperature.
Gotcha.
So yeah, both pretty common. Also to mention here, and it could be related to the change in temperature, but there are caves underneath Hexenkopf Rock.
Yeah, that's a. I actually one of the stories I always heard was about. I don't know if it's the same doctor, but a doctor would go into a cave around that area to get his enlightenment about what to do and how to help the community.
Well, these caves have been used for all sorts of of things, all
Okay.
sorts of they've done you name it in there, but actually one of the most documented uses for these caves was for burying Native American dead.
Oh.
So underneath that rock, there are lots of dead bodies.
Seems to be a trend around here,
Yeah,
and
so-
then some weird shit happening.
Yep. So that definitely has added to the belief that the area is cursed or haunted or witchy in some way.
Yeah, there's definitely I know modern day practicing Wiccans around here as well.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
definitely something people still hold very close to their chest and practice.
Yeah. Like as I mentioned earlier, witchcraft, a huge part of the German culture and therefore is a huge part of Pennsylvania culture as well.
Yeah, it's just it's crazy how it all links back to like the Native Americans and their ritualistic tendencies and the things they believed in, which basically was about not disrespecting Mother Earth
Yeah.
and giving back to what Mother Earth is giving you.
Okay.
That's how I interpret a lot of that.
Well, yeah, and it kind of sounds a little bit like the powwowers.
Yeah.
They do good for no money. They don't accept money. They view it as their responsibility to help their neighbor, their friend, their family member, whatever.
Now, where do they get all that flying on broomsticks from and cauldrons and stuff such as that?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's lots of stories from locals, because it isn't a city. I mean, it's kind of a rural. I can never say that word. Rural area, but there are people that live close by, and as I said, a professor and his wife have actually owned the land since the 60s. But yeah, there's a couple stories that seem to appear over and over again. One of them was actually the first woman that was charged by court
Okay.
for practicing witchcraft in 1863. She was charged with enchantments and charms and maliciously and diabolically cursing a white horse. So I don't know. She was at first she denied the charge,
Okay.
and then after learning that she was going to be prosecuted, she confessed to it all. So
Okay.
we were really unable to say whether that's true or not, but I mean, she did go to court for her crimes up
Okay.
on Hexenkopf Rock.
So how would they determine who was a witch? Was it just whoever thought that day based off nothing, or just a weird occurrence, and then all of a sudden somebody was a witch? Like, I never understood
I
that.
think being female,
Yeah, I think so.
anything
Sorry to say.
odd or out of the ordinary, and if you were a female, you were a witch.
Okay.
Especially,
What was it? Redheads too, right? Redheads were
Yeah.
blasphemy.
yeah. Yep. So, anyway, so there was a lady in 1863. Numerous people have reported seeing a headless hunter and a decapitated dog walking around,
Okay.
which is a familiar story for those of you from the area. I've never been there, but apparently this happens It's in Allentown. It's a street that all kinds of weird stuff happens on.
You got it. I know what you're talking about.
Constitution.
Constitution Drive.
Yeah, Constitution Drive. Apparently, there is a man and his dog walking the train track. So we'll go through that in another episode. But I just
There's
found it strange.
stuff with people and their dogs all the time around here.
Right, right. It's just a very. I guess if I were dead, I would want to be dead with my dog.
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah,
nice.
I wouldn't want to be alone. So anyway, people have seen that man and his dog. They have seen a white fox that has been uncatchable for years and years and years. Apparently, whenever you see this fox, you're supposed to have a terrible hunting year.
That's in Constitution Drive? Or is
No,
that-
this is up on Hexenkopf.
Oh, okay. I was
Yeah.
gonna say because there's the albinos on the Constitution Drive, but we can save that for a whole other
Yeah,
episode.
that's a whole can of worms right there.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So apparently a blind girl climbed the rocks and fell down. The spot where she landed, I guess, formed the outline of the witch's head,
Oh,
which is where the name comes from. The ghosts of two farmers engaged in a land dispute, and that dispute continued after their death. Apparently, bolts of fire and a putrid stench appear on the hill occasionally.
Okay.
The ghost of a peg-legged man can be seen just after dark. He apparently is a farmer that fell to his death while pursuing a witch up on the hill. He is recognized by his long gray hair, long beard, and the tapping of his peg leg on the rocks.
Weird.
Weird, right?
So just like,
Yeah, definitely. So, sidebar here.
oh no, the dogs are gonna start barking.
They are. Sidebar here. I had a bunch of fish when I was younger, and one of them was named Pegleg Pete.
That's very good to know. Very good to know.
He had no legs, but you know.
Okay.
So anyway, my personal favorite story, and I think the one that has the most credibility, is around the end of World War I. A man actually sued for divorce because he knew his wife was a witch.
Oh, okay.
So
How did he know that?
one night he couldn't sleep. His wife thought he was asleep, so she
Okay.
got out of bed. She rubbed her face with a magical ointment, mounted her broom, whispered an incantation, which was in German, Überstark and Übersteen, which translates to over rough and smooth, and then she flew out of the bedroom window.
Just flew right out the
Yeah.
bedroom window. He
So-
didn't throw her out of the bedroom window?
Nope, that's
she
how-
flew out of the
Right,
bedroom window.
and that's how he knew she was a witch.
Okay.
He actually decided that he was going to follow her. So he repeated the ritual. He put this ointment on his face. He said the incantation, hopped on a broom, and he flew out of the window.
Huh.
He ended up on top of Hexenkopf Rock. There was a revelry taking place, so witches linked arm in arm were dancing around a bonfire. He said that all the women were waiting for him. There were black men with long tails giving him cups of tea.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like either Midsummer or the
Yeah.
Wicker Man.
Well, yeah, what was the movie we watched the other day that I was like, it reminds me of Midsummer?
What did we?
I can't remember.
Oh, Death of Me.
Death of Me. I
on-
mean,
it's on Netflix.
The movie was just okay. It wasn't that great, but it reminded me of Midsummer.
Yeah, that weird start out taking some weird drugs and then you
Right.
know, all
They
this
like
weird
drink
stuff
this.
happens.
Yeah, they like drink this tea in Thailand and then they can't leave. So anyway, but yeah, after he got these cups of tea, he woke up the next morning in his neighbor's pig pen, and then he was like, "I'm suing for divorce."
What's up with the tea?
Yeah, I don't know. So actually what people say is that whenever you look up to the top of the hill, you see those lights. It's actually those witches performing this ritual. And it happens on Walpurgisnacht.
Okay.
My German again, Walpurgisnacht. Which is
All right.
April 30th. And I guess it is a popular meeting time for witches of the area.
Gotcha.
Yep. And then more recent reports, so I mean, I found things as recently as like 2017, are just essentially bad luck. After you visit the hill, there's car accidents, pet deaths, medical emergencies have all happened to people that visit the rock. Apparently Halloween night is a very popular time to be visiting the hill.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Isn't Halloween Associated with witches.
Sure, pagans, whatever.
Yeah, paganism.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, I find, the skeptic in me wants to find an explanation for this because there's a lot of stories. I mean, we could go on and on and on. So I did a little digging and I found that Hexenkopf Rock actually contains large deposits of mica. Do you know what mica is?
No, what is mica? I know people named Micah, but I don't know what mica is.
So mica is actually a type of rock. It is very thin, almost paper-like,
Okay.
and it contains a shimmer. So it's actually used in cosmetics a lot.
So it's reflective?
Yes,
and
it could
can
be. It could be,
Cause
sure.
a visual anomaly
Sure.
like it's glowing?
Yeah, it could cause like a shimmery, glowing look, I guess, depending on how the moon or how lights hit it.
Okay.
But I also found that mica has a lot of uses in witchcraft.
Really? Explain.
So, mica is associated with the element air and the planet Mercury. It holds powers of divination and protection and can expand your psychic awareness and determine your future. So, were the witches drawn to the rock or
The rock drawn to the people?
I don't know. So, I don't know. Could
Yeah,
be.
that's a
Whatever.
little strange.
It is strange. So, just thinking about this, we've seen this in several places before, right? Usually when you have a lot of paranormal activity like witches, aliens, goblins, ghosts, that kind of thing, it's usually centered over an area that has a large deposit of quartz.
Yes. I have heard about that.
Right. So, for instance, Area 51, Hellier, Kentucky, all of these caves and all of these rock formations contain high quartz content. So, I mean, when you think about it, mica could potentially do the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Because the quartz messes with like the electromagnetic
Right.
fields. And everything.
Electromagnetic fields, yeah, and it can throw off like EMF detectors and that kind of thing.
Okay, so it could basically mess up technology.
Yeah, it can mess with watches. Can mess with radar, that kind of thing. So, I mean, depending on how powerful or how large the deposit of quartz is, I guess. And actually, that kind of reminds me of another rock. Limestone actually is said to do something similar. So,
Okay. This area is very plentiful with limestone.
so yeah, actually, I moved here from Kansas. Specifically, I went to the University of Kansas, and the university itself is built on this hill made of limestone.
Okay.
And they say that limestone sort of acts like a recording device. So you get a lot of residual hauntings when you're around limestone. Like it kind of, you don't get the intelligent hauntings, but you get like the recurring.
Yeah, like the imprints?
Yeah, the same
Okay.
image time after time after time. So I feel like it's feasible to say that mica could potentially do something.
Well, isn't
like
there, in general, there's always a correlation with either like gems or rocks or something that harnesses a power or they can
Correct.
create an energy because of this.
Correct. So there's people that are really into like rocks and gems, and the only one I really know anything about is selenite. But I mean, apparently they all have different functions, different meanings. Some people are really into it. I don't know enough about it to really comment, but
Okay.
I mean, it
Yeah, I can't
makes
say
sense,
I'm
I
a
guess.
wealth of knowledge about that stuff either.
Rocks. So anyway, another important thing to mention is that the area is actually a hot spot for herbalists. You can find many, many medicinal herbs growing under leaves and pineapples, pine needles.
What kind of herbs are we talking about here?
Not that kind of herbs.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Like,
I'll
wait, I was going to say medicinal, but
I'll put
same,
myself back in place.
Same thing. Same. I mean, maybe it's next to a university. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But anyway, yeah, that apparently herbalists love it. There's certain species of plants that grow up there and nowhere else in Pennsylvania. So it's pretty interesting. There's actually white birch trees on this site, which were used and are still used to make birch beer, which is a popular drink.
Oh, yeah. I like white birch beer.
It's root beer.
It's white birch beer.
It's root beer.
It's white birch beer.
A&W all the way.
Birch beer.
Anyway,
White birch.
And then something else of note is that the type of rock, so the mica, also the placement of the rocks, make the acoustics of the area very unusual.
Oh, yeah.
The caves actually cause reverberation and intense echoes, which could give you that eerie feeling that, someone is there, you
Oh,
hear
yeah.
whispering, you get those cold and hot spots like you were mentioning earlier.
And it's just natural anomalies. It's just a reverberation off of rocks and
Right,
stuff like that.
right.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, we've unpacked a lot here. There's the stories, there is the facts. It's something that's been popular, as we said, since, the early 18th century.
I would definitely like to go there once it's, accessible to the public.
Right.
We-
Hopefully soon. We can, like I said, we'll tell everyone when it becomes available.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll take a trip up there, do some filming.
And we just thought this was a good starting off point for the podcast with the Hexenkopf because it's very prominent in the area. Everybody knows something about it.
Yeah, definitely. And just Hex and powwow in general, we thought would be a good jumping off point. So what do you think, though? Do you think it's real? Do you think witches still go up there? Do you think it's cursed? It's haunted?
Well, I don't know. Everything's open to, I guess, what you believe in, per se. I always like to take the debunking aspect and see what you can find out that's naturally occurring. But yeah, sometimes there's stuff you can't explain.
Right.
I've witnessed it. When we went looking for certain witchcraft things in Hellertown, we found a driveway to an abandoned property that we were told about. We started making our way up that driveway, and now you're talking, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. And all of a sudden there was like screaming, like bloody murder screaming, and it sounded like a female. Where did that come from? Who knows? Was it kids messing around? Maybe, but I didn't stick around to find out.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
But we were looking for the fields that, we heard witches were burned at the stake and stuff such as that, or hanged, and
Yeah.
that's what we found.
So you mentioned Hellertown. That is a part of the Lehigh Valley that is also very, I guess, what am I trying to say here? They also have a lot of hex signs, covered bridges,
Oh, yeah.
very traditional German. So that is not part of the York Lancaster area that we mentioned earlier, but
There's different settlements.
there's different German settlements.
They branched out all over the Lehigh Valley and the surrounding areas. This area is very rich with that culture.
Yeah, so we'll post some maps, we'll post some links. We'll let everyone know when you can start hiking up to the Witch's Head. And then as soon as we can get up there, we'll start posting some pictures for you. So
Yeah.
we should probably go and shovel some more snow.
Yeah, we probably should. There's probably a lot out there right now. I'm not looking forward to it at all.
So anyway, thanks for joining us, episode 1. Thank you for bearing with us. We'll be with you next time with another story from Pennsylvania.
Hey guys, thank you.